course, at the IFFM this year, we're celebrating Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, 20 years of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, a film that we all, a film that we really love, a film that that speaks to you even today. You have great memories of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. So, of course, without any further ado, let's bring out the man who made that film possible, the man who dreamed that vision, and the story that we all love, the story that endures on for 20 years. Let's welcome Karan Johar.
Hello, good evening. Hi. Good, we're going to keep it casual. Oh, my favorite two boys are in the audience. Huh. Yeah, totally. I'm changing my clothes all day. That's all I'm doing here. Thank you. Oh, should I have worn them? That would have been rude, wearing glasses with all of you. You can't see my face. So what am I going to do? Should I sit like this? Okay. Okay. Maybe should I do a Q&A with Rajeev instead, perhaps? Maybe that would be interesting.
I should be so lucky.
Coffee with Rajeev. Yeah, maybe we can grill him about who he really loves and who he really hates. Because let me tell you, Rajeev has lots of likes and dislikes. So don't go by this sweet demeanor and he tries to be very nice here and then he screws us on television later. Why so many?
Who was that? You're not getting a question. You're not getting a question.
Huh.
Karan, 20 years ago, when you were what, 26, 27? How old were you?
No.
You were older? You were younger?
Please. Every year matters. I was 24 when I wrote it. When it released, I was 25.
You were 25 when you released it. Did you, I mean, I know it's an odd question to ask, but did you think, but because it's you, I want to ask, did you think that this would be a movie that would live on and a movie that people would love so dearly even 20 years on?
The thing is that at that point of time, what had come right before Kuch Kuch Hota Hai was Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge.
Yeah.
And there was this tremendous pressure of kind of following up with the same lead pair 3 years later, exactly at the same time. So Dilwale Dulhaniya released on the 19th of October, 1995, and Kuch Kuch Hota Hai was scheduled to release on the 16th of October, 1998. Same love pair. It was a similar genre. It was a love story, kind of big-scale love story with music and dance and soul and emotion and humor. It had the same packaging. So there was this huge expectation. So already the bar was kind of set very high. So I had to already start dreaming. Of kind of being in a similar league. It's impossible to cross the magic and the brilliance of Dilwale. I just wanted to get the silver medal. Like, I was really like chasing the silver. I wasn't chasing the gold because Dilwale is gold. And you can't touch gold. But I wanted second spot. And that was always my big hope and desire. Of course, you can never predict the eventuality and you can always put out great energies and hope it can happen. But that was what I was chasing. I was chasing the silver medal.
Karan, you became a filmmaker almost accidentally. It wasn't something that you sort of grew up, or it was at the back of your mind, because weren't you almost going to take off to Paris to study fashion, to study French, actually? I mean,
it was always in my thinking that I should do something in this zone. But I was always very apologetic about that feeling because I was brought up to understand that the movie business is tough. I'm too weak for it. I don't have the personality to combat it. I was told that multiple times by my mom and my father. They said, you don't have what it takes to kind of, combat the competition or kind of make sure that you can survive the mad world of the movie business. So it was always something that I pushed behind and I chased every other dream. I wanted to do advertising and designing and various other fields, but it was always there, waiting for someone to tap it, and it happened. So I was actually on my way to Paris. I wanted to study there. I had studied the language for 6 years, and I wanted to go and pursue further studies in Paris, and my father had paid up. And those days, we were not entirely that affording for me to kind of, have splurged on my education, but my father had somehow managed, and we had decided that, this is what I would do. And then I got the offer to assist by Aditya Chopra, assist on Dilwale, and overnight, it was almost like that scene in Dilwale where Kajol asks Amrish Puri about, mujhe apni zindagi ka ek mahina de dijiye. So I asked my Bauji at that time, ke mujhe apni zindagi ka ek saal de dijiye. If I prove to be something, I will continue to make movies. If not, I will join the import-export business, which is what my father also had as a thankfully as a glorious backup even to us as a family, because films were not very productive and lucrative for my father. You know, he hadn't given very many successful films. So it was always there as a backup. And so now when, you know, and I have to add this and say this, that when people go on and on about nepotism, you know, they don't realize that some of us have actually had really challenging times to even be in the business. Yes, the opportunity was there because my father was in the business, but we had to really work hard to achieve those dreams we may have had. Yes, it was probably a step ahead of everybody who did not have the opportunity,
Right.
but it wasn't easy.
Right. You know, when people my age, I would imagine, you know, I was in my early 20s when I saw Kuch Kuch, and I remember it just felt so new and so different and shiny and just unlike what you'd seen. You know, these were characters that felt like people that we knew. These characters looked and dressed and spoke like real people. Maybe not real people, okay, but certainly, you know, looked and sounded like people you knew in college. They felt familiar. You know, the college looked like straight out of you know, Riverdale. Was Archie Comics was it a big inspiration?
Totally. I mean, I grew up with the ethos that cinema has to be larger than life and has to be aspirational. I was never chasing any kind of reality. I think I still don't. I was chasing a dream. For me, I grew up feeling cinema is larger than life. It's something that you should kind of aspire to have or aspire to achieve, and that's what you want to put out on celluloid. And that was my big intent with Kuch Kuch Hota, is to kind of create worlds that you hadn't seen. Because I come from that school of entertainment. I've grown up on Raj Kapoor and Yash Chopra and Manmohan Desai and Nasir Hussain, and I've just grown up on larger than life cinema. So I'm unapologetically and unabashedly in love with the movies, and a certain kind of film really attracts me. So I wanted to create a college that you hadn't seen, not the college I went to or you went to. It was just a college so there was color and there were checked floors and there were yellow lockers and the people were wearing, like I remember going and shopping. My father thought I was completely crazy. I said, I'm going to London to shop. Right. And my father said, you're going to shop for what? So I said, for clothes. He's saying, have you gone mad? Who goes to London to shop? I said, I promise you I'll buy everything in that one go. Manish and I will go. And then we went, and I was like, we didn't know what designer brands were that time. And I was like, let's buy designer brands. Like, we thought Gap and Polo Sport were designer brands at that time. And we were like, but make sure that it's there so everybody knows we've spent the money. Right. You know, because what's the point of hiding it? You know, I'm like, kisko pata chalega if it's just a plain grey jumper and it's Gap just written behind. I'm like, likhna chahiye, Gap, Polo Sport, DKNY. I'm like, we were so nouveau riche about our garments. We were like on display with everything. Like I remember that Polo Sport t-shirt, the blue and green one, the one he dances to on Koi Mil Gaya, it's a cycling t-shirt. Yeah. It's got nothing to do with what normal people wear to college. We spotted it while walking through a cycling store. And I want to tell you, in 1997, which is when we were shopping, it was 65 pounds. And we stared at it for over a day, mulling over it. Should we buy that t-shirt? It's 65 pounds. It's so expensive. It's so expensive. And we sat and we had dinner. We discussed it. Finally, the next day, like we had climbed Mount Everest, we had made up the big decision to go and buy that Polo Sport t-shirt. And I knew it had made an impact when in the morning, after about 2 months after the release, I opened the door to my milkman and he was wearing the Polo Sport t-shirt. And I was like, yay, validation for retail. It's the best feeling in the world.
Was it always going to be Shah Rukh and Kajol?
Oh yeah, there was no choice. I was given no choice because they were such humongous stars that I would be silly not to go with it. We were on the top of a hill, and which I even said at the award show, right, where Kajol said that I'm going to do your first film, and Shah Rukh said I'm going to do your first film, and I thought they were just being nice, but they really followed through, and I had to.
But did you know when they said that? Did you know what the first film was going to be?
No clue.
Wow, so you had your stars before you had your script.
So I remember when I was on my way, Shah Rukh told me, you have a story, right? And I completely lied to him. I said, yes, I do. He said, okay, so I'm shooting for Chahat in Jaipur. It was 1996 at that time, a year after Dilwale had released. Come, fly, and tell me your story. And I'm like on the way, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to meet Shah Rukh Khan. And I've told him I have a story. I have no story. I have no clue what the hell is going on. So I'm like, oh, I kept thinking, and I thought of some scene which had actually happened to me in school. It was just, we used to play Just a Minute, where they used to put a bowl full of topics, and, you know, used to pick it up, and it was part of our Interact Club exercise. So I made up this story of a young father going up to his daughter. And I just had a zone that I want to see Shah Rukh Khan as a young father who's lost his wife on childbirth. And there's this moment where this child comes up and picks up this mother. Because it had happened to me in the 8th standard. When I joined the Interact Club, I had picked up mother right out of this bowl in just a minute. So it was a true story in my life. And I just narrated. I said, I have one scene. I just want to narrate one scene to you. If you like the vibe, I'll narrate the whole film back home. Which is a lie. I didn't have a story. I narrated the scene. I think he caught my bullshit, but he was nice. And he said, I love the scene. Let's do it. Narrated to me after a couple of months. Then I went back and I didn't know what to do. Because I said, no, I don't want to make the story. I want to make the story of Betty, Archie, and Veronica. Then I kept oscillating between two stories. And one fine day, I was walking somewhere and I said, why don't I just make both the movies? I'll make the first half. I put a flashback and add those 8 letters. And I'll make Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. And that's how it all came together. And now when I think back, I mean, like, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai is the most illogical film you'll find on the face of this earth. Because,
those 8 letters.
I mean, what was said in those 8 letters? What could possibly a child understand at age 1, 2, 3? I have 2.5-year-olds, dude, at home. And if I started reading letters out to them, they would tear that paper. I mean, you know, they're not going to understand anything. And I'm like, but it was conviction. It was riding so highly on conviction that everyone bought that. It makes no sense. The film makes no sense if you think about it. But it has a lot of love and conviction.
Right. And then, of course, there was the drama of Tina.
Yes.
Casting the third.
8 girls. Tabu, who just left the house, was one of the girls who said no to me. It started with Twinkle, who's the character's named after. I was obsessed by Twinkle. I even thought I was in love with her then. Poor thing. Can you imagine? She has to bear the burden of that. And then after that, I went to about 8 leading actors. I think I went to Raveena, Tabu. I spoke to Urmila. I'd of course gone to Tina right before that, and some other girls, and Aishwarya. And I remember she was very polite, and she called me back and she said that I don't have the dates, I'm shooting for Jeans. And she was the only one who really bothered to call me back, I have to say. She was very polite and very, very professional, and she called me back. The others were very sweet and very kind, but they did not call me back. And finally, ironically, Aditya Chopra calls me one day and he says, have you seen this girl in this film trailer, film called Raja Ki Aayegi Barat? She does a particular gesture. I think she's bang on. She's going to be a huge star. So I said, her name is Rani Mukherjee. So I went and saw it. And by then I'd heard she signed Ghulam with Amir. So I said, oh God, I don't really have much of a choice left. So I went to meet Rani. I remember she opened the door and I couldn't find her. You know, because she was, and I looked and I said, oh, there's Rani. And I was like, oh my God, she's going to be the college bomb. How's that going to happen? And then I narrated the first half to her. And even she told me, can I take 2 days to think? And I was like, dude, I'll have to wear that short skirt and play this part because, like, no one is doing this part. Like, and she said, how are you going to convince an audience that Shah Rukh is in love with me over Kajal? Which was a legit question to ask because they were such a celebrated couple.
Yeah.
And I was like, yaar, what do? I'm going to just have to pray. And I literally prayed so hard that Rani Mukherjee would say yes. And when she called me, I felt like, oh my God, I've achieved like something monumental because nobody was saying yes to that part. And thank the Lord, because now when I look back, I'm like, she was the best for the film. I don't think anybody would have done the part as beautifully as Rani did in Kuch Kuch Hota Hai.
Right. Was it, you know, were you consciously thinking of creating moments? Because the thing about Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, there are some just beautiful moments that are sort of embedded in our minds. You know, because Shah Rukh and Kajol already had that chemistry and already had that that great cinema that they'd done together in DDLJ, which was going to, I mean, were you constantly sort of, you know, trying to create moments? Were you, you know, was that pressure on you that I have to, this has to pop on screen because they have to do stuff. There have to be moments that people will always remember.
The thing with Shah Rukh and Kajol is to show their love is an easy sell. Because it's very easy for you to convince an audience that they're in love. Because they have such terrific friendship that friendship is what we all know as chemistry. Because I believe that, you know, real life couples, when they're on screen, sometimes there's a certain amount of awkwardness. Because, you know, they find it unnatural to play act love. But when you have two people who are friends, who are genuinely comfortable as friends, they can play act love far more comfortably. And I think that was the dynamic that worked for Shah Rukh and Kajol, that they were really close friends, so they could play act lovers with great efficiency. And I think the moments were just because I'd worked with them as ADs, as an assistant on Dilwale. I kind of knew their zone. So I remember, and I have to share this moment with you, the moment that they meet each other after 8 years is actually what you see on film is a rehearsal. I didn't tell them, I rolled the camera. And I played that song for magic and effect. And I said, just rehearse. And they hadn't even discussed the scene. They just knew that we have to be awkward. We're two friends meeting after 8 years. They said, Karan, what do you want us to do? I said, just behave awkward.
Right.
How you're awkward meeting and like you all had gestures with each other. Just, you're not completing it. Just be awkward. And Kajal said, I don't know what to do. And Shah Rukh said, why don't we just do a rehearsal and see? So I told Santosh Tundial, he was the DOP or the cinematographer of the film. I said, Santosh, don't tell anyone, just roll the camera. And we said, okay, rehearsal, silence, everything. And we gave the instruction. I silently told him to roll the camera. They didn't know. And what you see is the take we have.
Oh, wow.
Is that's all they did. That there was no other take. They didn't even know it was being shot. And after that, they were like, great, Shah Rukh said, great, let's do this. We'll do something like this. I said, no, it's done. I don't need anything more. I'm done. And he was like, what? I said, we roll the camera. This is it. This is it. I don't want to do it. I want to touch this because this is organic, it's pure, it's real, and it's from the heart. You'll never be able to emulate or replicate this.
What were you like making your first film? Were you nervous? Did you always know you could do it? Were you ever overwhelmed by the fact that you had these big stars?
I was more overweight than overwhelmed. At that time, I think the nervousness made me eat a lot during that process. I was very stressed out. I was very scared. I was very nervous. But I was also humongously excited because I couldn't believe that I actually had a job. And I was making a movie that was going to be released in a theater where people were going to walk in and see my work. I couldn't believe I had an out-of-body experience right through that film. And every time I would can a shot, I would like, I took this shot. This is my scene. This is my movie. These are real actors. This is a real film. This will eventually release. And like, I don't know, but I think this is a feeling all debut filmmakers have.
Right.
Oh my God, that oh my God moment happened to me about 1,000,000 times right through that film. Through the turbulence, through the issues, through the stresses, through the budgetary constraints, through everything. It was like, oh my God, this is mine. Like, I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe like I actually did what I did, and I still can't believe I have done what I've done. Like sometimes you just feel like my life has been a series of happy accidents.
You know, Rani, I remember her saying that you weren't very kind to her when you met her in Mauritius, the first day of shoot.
I mean, I was not kind. I was just snatching her food away. So I want to tell you, she had to look like a college bomb, and the prerequisite of a college bomb is to fit into those hot, sexy clothes. And I was like, Rani, you got to lose some weight before you come. And she said, yeah, I will lose 4 kilos. And when she reached Mauritius, she had put on 4 kilos. So I don't know what had happened in the time that I had left her, but clearly she had, you know, kind of had one too many.
Celebrated landing the role.
Excited pieces of dessert. And I was like, oh my God. So Manish Malhotra and me were only monitoring. I called the room service and I said, if this room calls for this, this, and this, you will not serve it. So they were like, but that's against the rules of this hotel. I said, I don't care. You cannot serve this food. So Rani was like, room service is not sending me food. I'm like, I don't care. You're not eating. For 4 days, you have to just... I mean, I wouldn't do that to anybody today because I firmly believe like you got to own. But in those days, times were different. And, you know, today, I firmly believe you got to own your body and love who you are. But in those days, there was so much pressure, you know, that we had for a Hindi film actors to look a certain way. And today, I think there are actors that have broken those myths. And I feel like really ridiculous what I put her through. Because it was like something... And I couldn't afford to talk. You should have seen me at that time. I mean, you know, I was bursting from the seams and giving her advice on weight.
But what did you shoot with her first? What was the first? And then you had to hide her weight and things like that with a bag.
Why are you going on and on? I'll give you a big bag to hide right now.
Might need it.
He's after Rani's waistline.
Okay, let's move on. Salman was such an incredible and such a crucial element to that film, but he wasn't someone that you were particularly friendly to or knew when you approached him?
So Salman, his father and my father were really dear friends, and they had worked together, and we were family friends. But I was always very scared of Salman. Like, I still am. He's the only artist I think that I get very nervous in front of always. And though I have a deep amount of love and respect for him because I can never forget that he really did my first film. And I have to tell you how it happened. So I went and offered the role first to Chandrachur Singh. And I had an interesting conversation with him over the phone because I used to live in, I don't know if all of you are familiar with Mumbai. I lived in an area called Malabar Hill. How many of you know what that is?
The posh part, for those that don't know.
It was a lovely area, residential area. And he called me and he said, can you come and meet me? I live in 7 bungalows.
Distant suburbs.
Now, but I didn't know 7 bungalows was an area. So I thought that he was showing off and saying he lives in 7 bungalows. So I said on the phone, I said, but which one do you live in? So he said, no, I live in 7 bungalows. And I was like, okay, but which is yours? So he was like, the area is called 7 bungalows. I was like, oh. And then I realized it was an hour and a half away, and I drove there very excited, narrated the full film to him with gusto and excitement. Then he called me back the next day, and I went with my date diary thinking it's all signed, sealed, delivered. And he said, but I don't want to do the film. My first question was like, dude, you could have told me this on the phone. Like, I've come all the way, like very far. Like, I didn't have to hear a no after having gone through that whole drive. So anyway, then after that, I went to Saif Ali Khan, and he heard it again, and he was like, I don't want to play this kind of character. And I was like, now who's going to do? After my whole Rani bout, I was like, I'm going to now begging and I'm going to start going through this whole process. Very depressed, I went to Chunky Pandey's house, who had a house party that night. No, I didn't go to offer him the film. I just went to, I went to Chunky Pandey's house for a party. There I met Salman Khan. And he came up to me, and so I was very close to his sister Alvira, and she had told Salman about my film and me, and he's like, so I heard you've been shopping. So I was like, well, I have, and it's not been a very successful shopping trip. So he said, only a stupid, really passionate person will really do this part, and I will do it. So I was like, you, as in Salman Khan, will do this film, and he was too big a star for me to even think that he would. He said, come and narrate it to me the next day. And I went and narrated the film. He heard the first half, and at interval he told me, he said, I'm doing the film. So I said, but you're in the second half. He's like, I don't need to hear it. I can hear it in your voice. This film I want to do, and I'll do it for your father. He said, not for you, I'm doing this for your father. And I don't think I can ever forget that grand gesture of Salman's, because he just said it with abandon, that I'll do it for your father. He didn't even hear the film. He didn't hear the script. He just did it. He arrived on set. I told him the basic beats. He did it. It was an amazing 12-day schedule we had with him. There was no problem, no stress. He was amazing. Like one of my best actor experiences, and it was just seamless.
And I couldn't believe the film.
And I can't believe that Salman Khan was in the film. Like, I remember we were away in London when the film released, because we had some threats at that time, and it was a really scary time, and my parents and me had to run off, and we were in London. And my college and school friends would actually put the phone, those were initial mobile days, would put the phone out with an audience when Salman's entry, because those were also non-social media days, so we actually kept that a secret. People didn't know Salman was in the film. And when they arrived, and there was such a loud roar, and I was all the way in London hearing this audience, feeling like I'm going to start weeping because I can't see it. And there I had my mother next to me, who was so paranoid about the threats that she secretly kept saying, if the film works, will we get more threats? And I was like, secretly, is she hoping that the film doesn't work? Because I was like, Mama, it doesn't matter,
How did that film's success sort of change your life?
It changed it completely. I mean, from that lost child looking for like something to do, finding the right direction, pun totally intended, to have made that first film receive the kind of love it did. It was surreal. It was like a dream that had been fructified to perfection. And more than anything else, what really completed it for me was that look on my father's face. When he had seen cinematic success after being in the business for about 18 years and only seen failure, that look in his eyes, that aura and that energy he had, and the fact that he was so proud that it came to him through his son, through me, it just completed that portrait for me. That whole portrait, it was just made it it made it everything. Like, for me, like, nothing is more important. Success, I believe, is transient, as is failure. But I think the validation of your parents is something that is truly, that to me is success. To me, nothing else matters.
Why do you think it is a film that 20 years later still has an appeal? Is that something you've thought of? Because, you look at some films and you look at some films that were very successful in their time, and then you have some distance and they don't hold up. Sometimes they just feel dated. They feel like the emotions are dated. It feels like the story is dated. The fashion will date. But why do you think this is a film that still pushes all the buttons? It's still a film that you can enjoy even though there have been other films since that have done the campus kind of thing, again, that have done, the love triangle again. But this is a film that still holds up and endures so beautifully.
I think the fact that it's genuinely, and I don't say that young as an age thing. I think it's a young film because it makes you, at any age, it makes you feel alive and young. And it reminds you of your first love. In certain ways, it's lived on only because it's very young. If you watch it today, a millennial will watch it and find something. Yes, the fashion is all back, right? All the 90s fashion is all back. So in many ways, it's still fashion-wise relevant, but that's not about it. It's every kind of audience will find some kind of resonance with the film. Because at some point, you felt like Anjali. Some point, you wanted to be Tina. And all Anjalis and Tinas wanted a man like Rahul. All Rahuls wanted to be completed by a girl like Anjali. And I think these are prototypes, stereotypes that are cliched but very resonant with the people across the world who have watched the film and have deeply identified with it. I think it will live on forever, not because it's my film, it's because somewhere you'll find yourself in that film. Whether you're a boy or a girl, a man or a woman, even a parent, you will look back at it either with nostalgia, longing, or deep resonance, one of the three.
There are things in the film, there are moments in the film that are lovely, and I'm also trying to remember the bits that got criticized, just the whole idea that this is a man who, when he sees this girl, I mean, the basic,
it's politically completely wrong.
Right.
Anjali
as a tomboy, it can only be a friend. Yeah. There's just no attraction at all.
Totally.
Anjali's in a sari, pallu flies, and suddenly she's a woman.
I'm telling you, it is the most politically incorrect film. And I would never be able to replicate that incorrect politicalness today. Shabana Azmi, I remember, called me. She saw the film in England somewhere. And she said, and I've said this at various times, and she said, "Kya matlab hua? Chote baal the, ladki ki tarah ghum rahi thi, to ishq nahi hua. Saadi pehen liya, kapde itne khubsurat ho gaye, baal udne laga aur ishq ho gaya. How dare you allow this? What do you have to say?" So I took a beat and I said, "Ma'am, I'm really sorry." So she said, "Sorry? Yahi kehna chahte ho tum?" I said, "Haan, main aur kya kahun, because you're right. It is totally wrong." But main kya karu? Those were my thoughts at that time. And I'm very apologetic about those thoughts, because today I don't have those thoughts. Right. I was young, uninformed, and possibly cinematically influenced to a certain stage that it was kind of, we were ticking boxes. A girl was meant to be like this, a boy was to be like, but over the years you evolve, you mature, and you become a far more, I would say, a far more emotionally sensitive human being, where you're more in touch, you're more liberated, you're more in touch with yourself, your thoughts, your sexuality, your inclusiveness, your thoughts change. But in those days, back in 1997 when I scripted it, I was still playing Hindi film. Right. I wasn't really playing, I was playing to the gallery. I wasn't thinking. So all the boxes are incorrect, but the thought and soul is in place.
Right. And there are some beautiful characters that one still remembers, right? Remember the little boy? To see na jao. I mean, do you remember when that came about, how that came about, the writing?
I have no idea.
Wow.
I just had the silent Sardar boy who just had one line to say, to see na. Why was he silent? We don't know. I don't know. There were a lot of I don't knows. If somebody asked me, by the way, what did Shah Rukh Khan do in the film? And I was like, I don't know. He was business or something. As generic as that. Like, what the hell were they all doing? And why was Kajal as a school teacher dressed like Chandni? We don't know. We don't know. Why was Rani dressed like that to college? I don't know. I don't know. And I have no justification. But all I can say is that I worked very hard.
want to talk about the music of the film, which again is something that holds up so well. It's beautiful music even today. Did you always have an ear for music? Because you're even today, you're as a producer also you're seen as someone who he knows his music.
No, so I've grown up listening to Hindi film music and only Hindi film music. My mother used to play, so she was obsessed by English and Hindi music. So I've grown up to her listening to Elvis Presley and Mohammed Rafi in the same hour on the same day. Like literally, I've grown up listening to Rock Hudson and watching Rock Hudson and Doris Day, and then listening to music of Asha Bhosle and R.D. Burman and Kishore Kumar, same day, same moment. So I've grown up on, my mother has been a very strong influence on my musical choices, and I think I've grown up just listening to, like at 9 and 10, I was listening to Guru Dutt. At that age, I was listening to vintage Raj Kapoor's music, Shankar Jaikishan. I was like going crazy about R.D. Burman's beats. Like I was obsessed when kids were like, just the other day, we were like driving and in my car, they were playing a lot of 80s music. And I know all the 80s English music, but everyone asked, my friends asked me like, what were you doing in the 80s? Because clearly all this music is not deeply impacting you as much as it's impacting us. And I was like, I was listening to Lata ji, I was listening to those songs in my room. Like kids in my school thought I was crazy because I used to sing, I used to like literally buy those, like there used to be a double disc, double tape. Akai used to make it, and I used to transfer from one song to the other. On my Walkman, people were listening to Wham and listening to Madonna, and I was listening to Lata ji and R.D. Burman's great songs. So I was always into Hindi film music. So the music of Kuch Kuch Hota was an integral aspect, and I had to get it right because I'm so in love. So there's an R.D. Burman type of song, there's a Shankar Jaikishan type of song, there's a folk song, there's a melange of everything I've grown up loving in Hindi music and Indian music.
And the background also. The background score is beautiful. Again, those are those strains that you still remember. I mean,
it's the alap of our banner right now.
That's right, actually, yeah.
I mean, and now, I don't think I'll do every time, sometimes, that starts, I'm like, some filmmakers might want to kill me for actually still having that, but then I try and every time we make a kind of a hipster movie.
I was going to say, sometimes it looks very odd when when
but suddenly, like before Kapoor and Sons, you start is like, like that. But I've said it to many filmmakers, do you want to change the music? You want to put your own music over our logo? And they were like, no, this is what we grew up on.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. Now what do I do? You grew up on it, it's your problem, you keep it then.
It's funny that you mentioned growing up because it really is a film that that influenced and inspired a lot of filmmakers and inspired a generation of younger filmmakers. For a while, I think even in Dharma, you could see the influence in other people's films. How do you look at that? Have you seen what are the films that you see or that you saw and could recognize the influence of Kuch Kuch?
Well, I couldn't do that. That would be really like, pot calling the kettle black, because I'm like, I had actually been a product of influence myself.
Right.
Like, I was so influenced by Yash Chopra and so influenced by Raj Kapoor and so influenced by Nasir Hussain that Kuch Kuch Hota is a big mixture of all these films. So I can't be worried about who's being influenced by me because I'm a big influenced person myself. Like, I have, to the point I've copied stuff, like, literally, like, blatantly. And it's what I grew up on. In those days, we didn't have kind of copyright and trademark issues, and I was like just copying. Like my climax is Chandani.
Right.
It's exactly Chandani. It's just my setup is that my first half is Bobby. It's got like there's so much of copying. My folk song where she sings Tujhe Yaad Na Meri Aayi is exactly what Raj Kapoor would have done, but I tried to do it in my own way. I fully lifted, copied, got inspired. You can say what you want. So I'm not a one to start catching ke ye mere se copy. I am not original myself.
That team that you worked with, I mean, are you still in touch with? Is that a team that you've continued to work with?
So Sharmishta Roy, we worked with on a series of films. Santosh Tundial, we worked with a couple of films after that. Then I haven't been in touch with Jatin Lalit or Sameer Saab, who were the musical team. Shah Rukh, of course, is a huge part of my life today, as is Kajol, as is Rani. So the actors I'm very much in touch with. I directed Kajol last in My Name is Khan, and I haven't directed her. Rani I directed in a short film in 2013, and I got the opportunity to kind of revisit that magic with her again. And I haven't directed Shah Rukh since My Name is Khan as well, and I look forward to coming together. I think every time I think of that cast, I feel like there is some kind of an energy that we need to bring back. Not in the same film, definitely not a part two, but I think there is some kind of an energy in that cast that we should kind of bring back in some way, maybe in the future.
It's interesting that you say that, of course, not in the same film, and you wouldn't like to do a part two. But if Kuch Kuch Hota was to be remade today, and not necessarily even by you, I mean, because the structure of the film still holds. The relationship, the relationships and the dynamics could still sort of work. Perhaps not. Perhaps that he doesn't reject her because she's tomboy. That might be. You need a different conflict. It could just be that he loves Anjali more, or Tina more. But how would you see that film be relevant? I mean, one doesn't need to, because that film holds up very well. But how would you see that film sort of applied to a modern day?
Kuch Kuch Hota is not about its narrative, it's not about its structure or its characters, it's about a feeling. It was my first feeling. And I don't know if you can have that feeling again.
Right.
The reason why you can't make that film again, because you're not going to feel that again. And the film is very simple. It's about like two people who knew each other and then they get back, and it's, it's orchestrated by the man's daughter, which is, again, not such a great novel concept. It's happened in Parent Trap and various other films. So there was nothing new about its narrative. The characters were endearing. It was made with a feeling. I don't know if whoever makes it again will have that particular innocent feeling, because there was innocence. I was innocent, and I believed that what I was doing was coming from a space of conviction. And I was so innocent that I wasn't clouded by logic. I wasn't clouded by intellectualism. I wasn't clouded by social media feedback. I wasn't clouded by the logic of our times today. I was just making a film that came from a feeling. And that feeling, as I've told you a while ago, some feelings were not even correct. Some feelings were not politically correct. Some feelings were, I suppose I would evolve and change through time. But then you lose that one basic feeling. I don't know. It's not a film. It's a feeling. Right. And I don't know how that feeling can come back.
Did that film, was the success of Kuch Kuch Hota what empowered you to believe and dream even bigger and plan, and want to do Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham next?
Yeah,
which
that
really is the biggest
Kabhi
film.
Khushi Kabhie Gham was me showing off. That was me like, now I've got success, now I'm going to show off. It's like, when you become rich and you buy a big car, Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham was my big car. I was like, I want a big cast, big making. I was completely showing off. And within that, thank the Lord that I was raised to be the son I was, that I could swing the emotion into the narrative. Yeah. Because otherwise that film would have fallen flat on its face. But it was a big product of my showing off. When I look back, I'm like, oh my God. That I don't need to take that top shot or have that helicopter. And that I was just showing off. I was so excited that I made money that it's like how, I was nouveau riche.
Right. Your cinema, when one talks about Karan Johar, and I feel it's unfair because we end up, when we say that, we end up really referring to the first two films, is that, that he make larger than life, certainly, but also that they're very emotional films, and they're sort of push button emotions. He's manipulating you. Do you, in today's times, when we've moved away from that, I mean, popular cinema largely is about more realism and more subtlety. Do you think there is a room for that kind of movie done in the same way, done with the same conviction?
I think, if you tweak some of the narrative, points of the film, I don't think it's the tonality that's the problem. It's some elements of the narrative need tweaking.
Right.
Some of the screenplay needs to be made a little more grounded, more real. I totally believe the tonality will even work today, because I think we're intrinsically in love with a certain space of cinema, while we definitely have gone towards far more intelligent, far more cerebral, far more thought-over, evolved cinema. There's also that space for organic, pure Hindi film pagalpan.
Right.
And you want to kind of enjoy that ride, that song, that dance, that over emotion. And there are films that have worked, let me tell you, in the recent past, that may not be critic friendly, but even a critic, and I think secretly you like some films a lot more than you even say.
Of course,
because what will happen is that you feel, I know, and I believe if I was a critic, I would do the same, because you become part of a certain club of people that you want to be a member of. And if you like something that is not going to adhere to the needs and demands and the prerequisites of that club, you'll have to diss it. But secretly you listen to that song. Like I read a tweet of Rajeev's in the morning where he loved Arman Malik's music, and he said, I love that song, Main Hoon Hero Tera. But I don't think if he sits with Anupama Chopra, he'll tell her that. They'll talk about a film that has won a national award, but secretly they'll both go back home and listen to that song. So I'm saying there are more people like you, and I say this in the best possible way.
I
You
know
know,
that.
sometimes even me, like I feel like I have to subdue. Even when I'm writing a film, Rajeev, I'm always thinking about, but what will Rajeev think, you know, and what will the critics say? Because oh my God, I can't do this because this is not actually matching the order of our times. But there is a mad person in me that wants to explode and make that full-on Hindi film,
yeah.
and I don't want to be apologetic about it. I constantly feel that we get apologetic about what we're doing in Hindi cinema because we want to appease to a certain kind of audience, and we want that glory, and we want that rating, and we want that applause. But yaar, I grew up on a certain kind of Hindi film, and I grew up on a certain kind of madness. I grew up when a boy looked at a girl and a girl looked back, and there was love, and you didn't have to explain ki kahan mile, kyun ishq hua, why, what, where. I mean, ho jata hai yaar. When Guru Dutt stares at Wahida Rahman, that was love. You know, when Shah Rukh looks at Kajal, that's love. Today we have to say, but they met only once, how they fell in love. I'm like, you swipe left and right and fall in love, yeah? You can do the same. So it's like, you want to go back. I mean, want to go back and revisit that syntax.
Right.
And I feel like I myself am not doing it. Because I'm so worried about what you'll say. Why are you doing this to us, Rajeev?
But actually, you know, you brought up something really interesting. In the age of Tinder and in the age of, you know, sort of instant noodle love, does that love, can that be convincing, that kind of enduring love that is in a film like Kuch Kuch? I mean, the fact that, you know, that she's still holding a candle for him all these years later, she's still, you know, and there is an unspoken, though it's very funny because the line of the film is, "Pyar ek hi baar hota hai." Except that
it's a completely ridiculous line. Because it makes no sense again. He says, "Pyar ek baar hota hai," he falls in love twice. "Shaadi ek baar hota hai," he gets married twice. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, you know, I'm like, when I'm looking at the line, I'm like, how come no one caught me on all these things? Like, you know, some may have, but I mean, more or less, I think besides Shabana ji and some others, I was saved some of that criticism. But you're saying that, is it possible to have that intense love? Look, I think, if you ask me, there is more angst in this generation, and who we know as the millennials. God bless all of you. I wish I was you. Or millennials or the Gen Z generation. I think there is more angst, more tarap. Have you noticed only songs of desire and longing and unrequited love work today?
Right,
It's
right.
because everyone is falling in love with somebody they can't have.
Right.
And I think there's more love in this generation, more intensity. It's just that way of expression is a little more progressive than it was. It's not aankhon hi aankhon mein. It's now you're swiping away to glory. But I'm like, which is great, more power to you, as long as you're safe. And I'm like, there's a lot of angst. There is a lot of ashiki in this generation. And I think there is a lot of love when you see a film. I purely talk about the love and intensity, why a Kabir Singh has done the numbers. It's because it's talking about intensity of love. And I think there is a Devdas in every generation that needs to be made. There is intensity in and I think we don't make enough love stories because we've run out of conflict.
Right.
And I think the problem is that we should not actually stick to staple conflicts of parental conflict
Right.
or of, you know, status conflict.
Yeah.
But right now the conflicts are internal. It's about like, I don't love you, but I love you, and why don't you love me? And you know, it's those it's become internal. It's no longer about parental pressures, etc., that we've made many films on. It's about conflict within. And I think we need as filmmakers to tap into more stories. Yes, to answer your question, there is passion, there is intensity. It's just a different syntax altogether.
Okay. You know, I'm going to open it out to the audience in a minute. I'm going to ask you one last question. Is there one scene in that film more than the others? Is there one moment more than the others that just brings back, you know, a very special memory, or one scene that you really loved filming?
There was, there were a couple of moments in the film really that bring back so many memories. There was one scene in particular which I remember we created right there. We were shooting in Scotland, but actually the college was shot in Mauritius, but it was all actually meant to be in Faridabad. If anyone knows this, that college is Faridabad. Yes. If you go to the station, which was Apta, where we shot, it's in Maharashtra, if there is a signage that says Faridabad, it's a lesser known fact. If you zoom into that scene and you stop on that part, it says Faridabad in yellow. But we shot it in Mauritius and Scotland. nowhere close to Faridabad. But I'm giving you a hashtag trivia that it's meant to be Faridabad. Why is it in Faridabad? Because we actually did some kind of research at that time, and there was an American college in Faridabad that was kind of hip looking at that time. Or so I was told by my
Not hip
assistant
enough to
film.
shoot there.
No, so we decided that logically we must now base it in Faridabad. But don't ask me why again. So it's Faridabad. So back to your question, that moment we shot in Scotland where Kajal comes overdressed, thinking she'll impress, when Anjali comes to impress Rahul, and he laughs at her. And then Tina realizes and goes, and then Shah Rukh comes and they holds the hand. And there's that scene where he says, "You're the most beautiful girl in the world." And then when Tina wants to basically give them a moment, and then he holds her hand and we cut to that wide shot. Now that was a moment that we kind of discussed on set. It was kind of written in a different way, but somehow we felt that, and it was created on the set spontaneously and organically, just happened. That moment to me defines the way we made Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. It was collective. It was like a community feeling that we had for each other while we made it, and yet there was an impact as a result of it. So that scene kind of like comes together for me very beautifully.
And it is a beautiful scene. It's full goose flesh scene, as they say. Okay, we can take a few questions. Again, I'm going to repeat. The last time you all had very good questions, so Izzat rakh lo. Questions, no comments. We all love Karan Johar, so you don't have to keep repeating that. We will tell him at the end together. Okay, the lady here in the black who's clearly very excited.
I'm so lucky.
Okay, but just one
I'm
question.
so lucky. This morning, I was just standing in front of Karan's car. He didn't even look at me. I was so depressed, so depressed. I just wanted to tell you, Karan.
I'm staring at you right now.
Thank you. I love you. I want to come
With my
forward.
dagger eyes.
Okay. Hello.
Okay, all right. I just want to tell you one thing, that I'm a huge fan of yours. And to dedicate your show, Karan, Coffee with Karan, I have started my own show, Coffee with Sarah, here in Melbourne.
Oh.
And I invite successful people.
So I can sue you tomorrow.
I wish you could. So I just wanted to tell you that I'm a huge fan, and you inspired me so much, and you inspired so many people here.
Thank you.
And you don't even know that how much we love you.
Thank you.
And
That's
how
very kind.
much we get inspired by your shows. And I just want one thing from you. If you could have coffee with me. On my show.
Oh, okay. Next year, when I come back, I assure you I will speak to Meetu and make sure that if your show is still successful, which I'm sure it will be, it has a lovely name.
Of course it will be. I'll keep it
I will come and
running for
have
you.
coffee with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rajeev ji, for giving me the chance. Thank
The
you.
gentleman here in the front row. The gentleman in the front row.
Hi, Karan.
Hi.
Big fan. I'd just like to say also really appreciate your sort of candidness in interviews, and it seems like you're very self-aware. My question is, you've got really good artistic views, but you also understand the box office very well, it seems. To what extent does that influence your artistic process when you're sort of creating a film, and how does that influence change in the role of a director and a producer?
I think when I direct a film, I'm also the producer. And that film becomes important for our production. So I make a film that I believe in, but I believe that what I do is a blend of commerce and art, and I feel that you can be artistic with a commercial bent. And that's what I try and do, because I firmly believe in it as well. I come from that school of cinema that actually endorses mainstream cinema, that loved mainstream cinema when I grew up. So to add that kind of touch, flavor, and syntax to my narrative comes easily to me, fortunately. Yes, I will try and tell different stories, but always in a way that I would feel would appeal to a mass, large audience, because I've been one myself. So it kind of is an organic, flowy process.
Okay, the lady here in front of the gentleman with the turban.
Hi, first of all, thank you, Rajeev. It's kind of nice to see you as well. And welcome to Melbourne, Karan.
Thank you.
I have a question for you as a storyteller, because you seem to be a very natural storyteller. And I know that you've written quite a few of your own films as well. I'm just wondering, since you're also quite musical, how do you factor in the music when you do the writing? Is it when you initially go into it already, or there's a draft, or do you have meetings with other people and discuss it? What's the process of incorporating the music?
So the thing, ma'am, is to answer your question, initially, the first decade of the work that I did, which was 98 to 2010, songs were like celebrations of emotions. They're all happy, we sing a song. They are sad, we sing a song. We are getting married, we celebrate that with a song. So it used to be we celebrate an emotion or an event in the film. It was fairly easy. It was easy to incorporate. The last decade, which is now from 2010, from My Name is Khan till now, and as a producer also, film songs cannot be lip-synced anymore. There's no lip-sync music, actually, if you've noticed, because our characters are more real, and real people don't really start singing, in the middle of nowhere. So we had to incorporate music and keep them in the background. So that was more challenging. When you wrote the screenplay, it had to kind of creep in. It had to take the story ahead. So you created what you call the montage, which is a collage of events, and that you can move the story over a song. So if you're showing a process of love, they're not singing it, but you show various moments. It becomes a montage. So if you notice, there's a lot of montage now in cinema because it's no longer sung. Because when we were singing, there was no montage because they were singing, and in that 6 minutes duration, you knew that abhi ishq ho gaya hai, pyar ho chuka hai. And now you have to keep showing, now we chai pee rahe hain, coffee pee rahe hain, walk pe ja rahe hain, kahin ghar pe soch rahe hain. Montage, 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 montage. You have to keep adding like that because we want to be more real. Unfortunately, we've stopped singing songs, which is so sad. I still want to break into song.
You feel free.
I would love to, but I don't want you all to run away. But anyway, I'm tone deaf.
Okay, the gentleman in the second row. Yeah.
Hi, Karan. I'm from Mauritius, actually. I was
Hi.
about 10 years old when you shoot that at University of Mauritius.
Yes. Oh, you were there.
Yeah, I was there. And I remember you, Kajol, Shahrukh was there. And my question is, quand est-ce que vous allez revenir à l'île Maurice pour faire un autre film?
Il faut que je visite Maurice, c'est très joli. Vraiment. Et tu parles français?
Ouais,
je parle, mais il faut pratiquer. Il n'y a pas beaucoup de personnes en Inde qui peuvent parler en français.
That's very good.
Get a room, guys.
I'm going to bring Indian Film Festival to Mauritius, and I want you to be there as well.
I'd love
Keep
to
in
be
touch.
there. Thank you so much. Mauritius brings back so many memories.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, this is tough. Okay, the girl here in the second row.
Hi, Karan. Welcome to Melbourne. Love your work, love your style, love your candor and candidness.
Thank you.
I know you mentioned about Kuch Kuch Hota, that was a moment, and you cannot practically replicate that. But if I was to give you a scenario, who would you cast in Kuch Kuch Hota Hai now? Who would be Anjali, who would be Rahul, and who would be Tina?
I'll give you my three. Rajeev, what are your three? I'm interested. I'm just genuinely interested. Who would you cast?
Oh gosh. I mean, my favorite actors are Ranbir.
So
Alia.
Ranbir is Shahrukh.
Yeah.
Alia would
except
be-
this doesn't feel like his kind of, Kuch Kuch doesn't feel like the kind of movie Ranbir would do.
Well, he did Jawani Diwani.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Ranbir, Alia, and yeah, Sara. That sounds like fun, yeah. That would be.
I would be Ranveer Singh because I think he's got. So I would say that because I always feel like he has that madness that Shah Rukh also has, that mad intensity. I would say Ranveer Singh. I would definitely say Alia because. What do I say? I love Alia, and I'm going to say that unapologetically. She's, according to me, the finest actor, and I love her. So her, and I would say Janvi as Tina.
Nice. Okay, the lady at the back. Yes. Yes.
Hi, Karan. My name's Sanya, so I've got a few questions for you.
No, one. We have plenty people.
Sure,
Listen,
one question. Kill, marry, hook up. Just kidding.
Oh, really?
So the kind of cinema that's been doing really well in Bollywood in the past 1 year have been really content-driven films.
Right.
Like Gully Boy, Razi. How is Dharma Productions going to change its approach to meet the audience's sensibilities?
Razi is Dharma Productions, so we've already changed it. Do I have to answer any further than that? So the thing is, darling, to answer your question, is that Dharma is driven by its filmmakers, and I think its filmmakers pretty much make and comprise the impact of the company. So every filmmaker has their own kind of talent and craft. And so when we had Meghna Gulzar Meghrazi for us, that was her choice of film and we really loved it. Shakun Batra made Kapoor and Sons, which is very different from, like we produced Simba or we produced Kesari. They're very different films. So I think we actually have been making an assortment of films. We get a little less credit for that somehow because we're still branded as the guys who make films for a certain kind of audience. But we've actually made, like, films have worked, films haven't, but we've tried to make films and present films that have been, we've presented a Bahubali and a Lunchbox and produced a Kapoor and Sons and a Razi. We've done that kind of landscape, and I think that we will continue to empower directors to tell their stories to their best conviction.
Okay, the gentleman in the black, yes.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
Let me introduce myself. I'm from a Telugu film background.
Right.
I love to name it a Telugu film background, but because it's been 5 years I'm in Australia, so I love to thank Mituji what she's doing here, because someone should take initiate to make it big happen. But I totally don't understand, because it clearly says Indian Film Festival. There is a point of time when I have zero exposure on what is Indian Film Festival. Then that is how I got to meet Mitu ma'am, and she explained this is what we are doing it. But there were my friends from Kannada industry, Malayalam industry. There's friends from Tamil industry. We are making some huge. How long we'll name this as a Bollywood, Tollywood, or Collywood? What kind of support you give to name it as Indian Film Festival with no pure domination of Bollywood, Tollywood, or any other film industry? How we can come up with this name?
We've combated this for so many years. In the beginning, we used to ourselves never say Bollywood ourselves because it was sanctioned by the Queen. It's in the Oxford Dictionary, so it became tough to fight with the Queen. It's now in the Oxford Dictionary. It's a term we don't like to use it. We are a very proud Indian film industry, and we make some great films across the country. And if you've seen it, not only in the repertoire of films that are there in the festival this year, but genuinely, if you see the national award winners, it's across Telugu language films, and there are films that are won from Assam, and we have
Best actress is Mahanati, Kirti, who was here last year.
Yeah, Kirti was here for Mahanadi, and you have amazing directors and actors from across the country. So of course, it's just that the media itself has to stop calling it Bollywood, and we have to just stop it, because the West recognizes us as Bollywood, and that's not true. We are a proud Indian film industry. We should not be a derivative or a poor cousin of an existing studio culture. But unfortunately, if somebody everybody has to unanimously take that as a diktat and say, let's just call it the Indian film industry. We call it IFFI if we need to, and not Bollywood.
And everyone has to take their own, everyone in that position has to take their own step. Look at the festival here, the IFFM, we've got the whole Super Deluxe team. We're doing the chat with the Super Deluxe team. The primetime chat, the 9 p.m. chat is with the Super Deluxe team. So everyone has to do that. We opened with an Assamese filmmaker's film, an Assamese film. So everyone has to do their own. I don't think it's something collectively that the industry can, now from tomorrow we will start promoting regional cinema. It has to, everyone who is in a position where they can influence change, must and should. Okay. I want to go at the back because I feel like the guys at the back are not getting a chance. Okay, the girl over there at the back who's very excited.
It's so great to have both of you here. Feels great to be Indian and to see you here representing the Indian film industry. So welcome to Melbourne. Karan, I've always wanted to ask you this. You've directed these big stars, Amitabh Bachchan, Shah Rukh Khan, so many of them. Do these people really have to be directed, or are they just so good that they read the script and they just know what to do?
Actually, you're quite right when you ask this question, because I'll tell you what you need to do is that when you are such a terrific artist and you're such a strong actor, their understanding and comprehension of a scene is already on point. What you guide them is the tonality. And once you tell them that, direction there is not like, I'm not an actor, so I can't be, I did try, but in 2 very unsuccessful films. But I'm like, I can tell you the tonality, and I can tell you the mood of the scene and the environment around, and then they just get it. They just get it. Where I felt like I had to direct this when I was directing younger actors who had lesser experience, those are the people you really guide, and you kind of suddenly show the motions, give them a prop to play with, give them motivations. But when actors like Mr. Bachchan, you just have to kind of bow down in respect and just applaud the craft, because it is amazing.
Karan, I want to just extend on that question. What happens when you don't like a take by by a fairly senior actor. Is that awkward?
So I'll tell you what I do. I have a way. Whenever I give an instruction, I never shout it loud on a mic. So there's a culture which is this mic. We have where directors sit behind monitors and start screaming, you know, because the director must feel that he's leading or she's leading the team, and you start giving instructions. Ever since I can remember, this is my biggest training to all my assistants. I'm like, never give an instruction to an artist performing on the mic. Get up, go to them, silently whisper to them whatever you need to say. Because an actor is a very insecure person at that time. No matter how big a star, he or she is always vulnerable and insecure. They always feel like they're being judged at that moment, either by you or by the crew or by a co-actor. And you need to be sensitive to that emotion and that feeling. So if I don't like a take, I will not say, no, didn't work for me. We'll do another. I will get up and I'll say, no, sir, can we try again? Maybe the tone is not right. Maybe I'll whisper it. He will nod or she will nod. I'll go back and we'll do it again. So nobody knows what has transpired between director and actor. Because you don't want to kind of mean, and that is something that whoever has worked under me, I'm like, please do not scream instructions to artists. An artist is a sensitive, vulnerable force that you have to deal with an equal amount of sensitivity with.
Okay, the lady here. She seems to be very popular.
Hi, my name is Sanya. I just want to say I grew up watching your films and I really admire your work. My question is, what are your thoughts of colorism in Bollywood? And are Bollywood directors doing anything to introduce more skin color diversity to represent the large number of Indians who are not as fair as most Bollywood actors?
Well, when you talk about color, I mean, in India, when you talk about, we have worked with all kinds of actors from across the country. You know, I mean, I firmly am somebody who endorses diversity and integration at any given point of time. I've worked with actors from the north, from the west, from the south, from the east, everyone of prominence, everyone of color, and everyone, and we've even open to working with people from across the globe, if so need be. There's no such thing. I mean, I'm a liberal voice in cinema, I'm an inclusive voice in cinema, and I'm somebody who endorses every kind of, we've talked about all kinds of topics from infidelity to homosexuality in our cinema, and we've always tried to do it sensitively. Sometimes we've been criticized for it, but we've always tried to do something that could actually enforce and talk about external forces that maybe a lot of our society don't understand. We try and be in this current climate, and I myself have made some errors where we've actually had songs that have objectified women, and I've gone on record and said that I wouldn't do that again. We're trying not to be ageist, we're trying not to be sexist, we're trying to empower our women in cinema, we're trying to kind of make sure that we endorse thoughts of sexuality and present them in the right manner. We're trying. Our endeavors are at a high point in Dharma Productions.
Okay, we have time for one last question. It's going to be the gentleman in the hat.
Hey, मुझसे दोस्ती करोगे? It almost seems like that. Who are my fashion icons? You mean nationally? In whatever, Joby. Well, like I mentioned, Mr. Bachchan, we were talking about him. To me, I think there's nobody more fashionable than him. I sometimes look at his clothes and I'm like, oh my God, how cool is Mr. Bachchan? Like, you know, he's worn those certain kind of athleisure, or he'll carry the most like over the, I am kind of over the top in my dressing, and I'm okay about it because that's who I am. But I feel like that's the way he is. He can walk out of his home wearing anything and pull it off. Be it an Indian attire, be it an athleisure garment, be it an over-the-top. When I was dressing him in Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, it was such a blast because I gave him all these over-the-top jackets and he pulled them off with panache. He is, to me, the #1 style icon. I think amongst the women, there are some interesting choices. I think Karina's really upping her fashion game, and I think she's really amazing in everything she wears recently. I think Sonam has definitely started the whole fashion ball rolling. She and her sister Ria, I think, are strong fashion forces. And I think in the younger generation, I really like the way, I love Ranveer's abandon, and I love Ranbir's casual charm. But over anything else, I think nobody carries casual clothes as well as Shah Rukh Khan does. I think when Shah Rukh Khan walks out in a jumper and jeans and his glasses, he has swag that nobody else has. Like, he owns swag.
Unfortunately, we don't have time for more questions, but thank you, Karan. Thank you. You know, one of the things about Kuch Kuch, I feel like, and you know, I said it that day, I was talking to Shahrukh, that, you know, we talk about how it's important that films make us happy. But here was a film that sort of taught you the importance of heartbreak, that taught you the importance of, you know, of a good cry. There are some films you just need a good cry sometimes, and it's my go-to film for that. Yeah. It kind of makes, it kind of fills up a space in your heart, which a lot of other films don't. I think that's why the film endures so beautifully. It kind of, it's that mixed thali which gives you a little bit of many things. It's a beautiful film. Thank you so much for Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Many congratulations, 20 years of Kuch Kuch. And thank you for being just so amazing with your time, so generous with your affection. We love you at this festival, and we hope you will keep coming back.
Well, I definitely have to round up, and this is going to be my last interaction, and I have to say that Meetu is a dear friend, and Rajeev has been somebody I've known for years, and what's amazing about Rajeev and me is that we never keep our various work experiences as part of our dynamic. I've known Rajeev since he was a young rookie journalist, and now he's become this huge force to reckon with in the zone of film journalism, and I think more power to you, Rajeev, for constantly kind of upping the game and, you know, keeping the flag of cinema flying right through. To Meetu for this fantastic festival, which you've been such a grand part of. And I really believe that this festival is a festival with not only all the right values in place, you know, the way it promotes diversity, the way it promotes national cinema across the country, and more than anything else, it does that with a beating heart. And very few festivals can speak of all this in one space. So more power to Melbourne, more power to IFFM, and more power to all of you who have been such an engaging and a solid audience right through this journey and through this festival. So thank you. It's been an honor, and I hope I will constantly be invited to this festival.
Thank you. Thank you.